Hello students, today we will see the last part of our 9th chapter, the living organisms, characteristics and habitats. In this video, we are going to see the adaptations in aquatic organisms, aquatic animals as well as in aquatic plants. First, let's see the adaptations in animals, especially in ocean. In ocean, fishes, squids and octopus, dolphins and whales are some of the animals commonly found. So, fishes. Fishes have streamlined body. What do you mean by streamlined body? A streamlined body is the shape where the tips are narrow and the mid part is pointed. This type of structures are called streamlined or streamlined body. So you must remember that, you must have remembered what is the shape of a fish. Usually most of the fishes have shape like this. So they will have the head pointed, the tail part pointed and the middle body part is wider. This type of streamlined shape help the fishes to easily swim through the water without any resistance or least resistance to them. Next is slippery scales. You must have noticed that fishes have scales like this on their body which are very slippery. These slippery scales help the fish to protect them. Try to grab a fish. Won't these slippery scales will make the fish slip out of your hands? So it protects the fish and also it helps the fish in swimming swiftly. Next is the presence of fins, tails and gills. A fish have fins on its side, fins like this. Here also you will see the fins, here also. These are called fins and a tail. This fins and tail help the fish to swim in the water, balance its body in the water and change the direction in the water also. The gills present in the fishes help them to breathe in the water. We breathe through our nose and nostrils. We inhale the oxygen present around us in the air, and fishes also require oxygen like us, but they don't have nose like us. They have gills on the side, both sides of their head, and through these gills they inhale the dissolved oxygen present in the water. So these are some of the adaptations generally can be seen in the fishes. Squids and octopus are some of the organisms which stay deeper in ocean. They don't have the particular streamlined body shape like the fishes, and also they stay deeper in the ocean, at the ocean bed. What they do, whatever animal or plant, whatever organism comes near them, they will catch them and feed upon them. Although they don't have streamlined body, but while moving, they make their body in streamlined shape. You will see that octopus and squids, when they swim, they move their tentacles like this, and while moving, you will see that if these are the tentacles, they tend to make their body streamlined, again, which will facilitate them in easy swimming. They also have gills like the fishes. Dolphins and whales. Dolphins and whales are actually mammals. Mammals include the organisms like human beings, cow, dog, cat, lion, elephant. So all these complex organisms are actually categorized in the group called mammals, and dolphins and whales are also the members of mammal group. But they live in water. So they have their adaptation according to their surrounding. For that, dolphins and whales also have streamlined body shape, but they breathe through nostrils or called blowholes. Just like us, we have these holes in our nose called nostril, through which we inhale oxygen from the air, present in the air. These dolphins and whales, if you will try to observe carefully, you will notice that in between, at a particular interval of times, they will come to the surface of the water. Why they do so? So that they can inhale the oxygen through their nostril or blowholes. So if this is the head of the whale, on their back they have nostrils, they have holes. So they will come on the surface of the water, inhale, then again they will dive in the water, they will go under the water, and they are adapted in such a way that they can stay for a long time under the water without breathing. So these are some of the adaptations in the animals, especially found in the ocean. Next is ponds and lakes. The most common animals which dwell in the pond or lakes is frog. So frogs can stay both inside the water as well as on the land. They have this capacity. That is why they are also called as amphibians. They fall in the group called amphibians. Amphibians are those which can live in the water and as well as can move on the land. This is one of their adaptation. Next is they have very strong back leg. You see the frogs, what they do, they don't walk like us. They hop or they jump. So while jumping, their back leg pulls their body. And this is why they have very strong back legs, and this jumping of these frogs helps them in catching the prey and also moving from one place to another. Next is they have webbed feet. So what is the meaning of webbed feet? If these are the fingers of the frog, their fingers are attached to each other through web-like structures. In the ducks also this webbed feet can be seen. So if this is their feet, they will have web-like structure in between this, and it will help them to push the water so that they can easily swim in the water. Next topic we will see is the adaptations in aquatic plant. But first let's see. The aquatic plants can mainly be categorized in three groups or three types. First is partially or partly submerged. That means half of their body will be under the water and half of their body will be above the water. Like here you can see the stem, branches, leaves, roots are under the water, whereas some of the branches and flowers are above the water surface. These are called partially or partly submerged. For example, lotus, water lily, etc. Next type is completely submerged. Such type of plants are completely under the water and you will not see any part of these plants coming out of the water surface. They are completely under the water, completely submerged in the water. For example, hornwort. Next is the plants which floats on the water. You will see that only the root part are under the water, while the rest of the part, the stem, leaves, flowers, all of them are above the water surface. So such types of plants are called floating plants. For example, water hyacinth. Now let's see what are the adaptations which can be seen in these three types of plants. Very short roots. You will observe that the water plants have very short roots. What is the main purpose or main function of the roots? The root can absorb the water and minerals from the soil to provide it to the other parts of the plant. But in these cases, especially in this two, the whole or at least half part of the plant is completely submerged in the water itself. So they don't need the root for absorption. The stem, leaves, branches themselves can directly absorb the water and minerals from their surrounding. So the roots are very short, and the main purpose of roots in these water plants is to hold the plant in its place. Like these short roots will catch or will hold the soil firmly and keep the plant in the place. They don't have to absorb the water and minerals, because absorption can be done by the other parts of the plant itself through their surrounding. Next is long, hollow and light stems. You see the stem of the lotus plant. They are thin, very long and also very light. They are hollow inside. Hollow means they have empty space inside them. They are not completely filled. They are empty inside, hollow, so that this long, hollow and light stems can easily bend along with the flow of the water. For example, if heavy rainfall takes place, the water current will increase. The water flow will increase in its speed. This may damage the plant if it cannot sway or bend along with the water current. This characteristic like long, hollow and light stem helps the stem of these plants to easily bend along with the water and do not get damaged. Next is narrow and thin ribbon-like or highly divided leaves. Now the leaves in the water plants, just like the stem, if they are very wide, very big, what will happen? Due to the water flow, the leaves may get tear up and may get damaged. So to prevent this, the leaves of the water plant are thin and ribbon-like. They are very thin, long and ribbon-like or highly divided. That means they will be highly divided like this, which let the water to easily pass through them without damaging the leaves. They can easily sway in the water, easily move in the water, bend easily and do not get damaged. So these are some of the adaptations in the aquatic plants as well as in the aquatic animals which we have discussed. Now let's see the next topic, that is characteristics of organisms. That means what are those characters which makes an organism or which tells us that something is living. So for that we must know that these are some of the characters which should be present, which should be there in a thing for it to be called as a living thing. So what are those characteristics? First one is all living things need food to stay alive. That means all living things eat food. They take nutrition which provides them energy to function properly and to perform various processes taking place in them like respiration, circulatory system, excretion. All these things taking place in our body needs energy, and that energy we get from the food. Plants are called as autotrophs or producers. Why? What is the source of the food for the plant? The energy which the plant takes to produce its food, to prepare its food, is from the sun. The solar energy is absorbed by the plant. The plant itself, within the plant itself, they prepare their food using the carbon dioxide gas, sunlight and the water and minerals absorbed from the roots. Together all these are taken to the chloroplast of the plant which is present in the leaf, and there the preparation of the food for the plant takes place. That means, what is the source of energy? What is the ultimate source of energy for the earth? It is the solar light or the solar energy. And where does the plant prepare its food? The plant prepare its food in its leaves. Most of the plants actually prepare their food in their leaves. Some of the plants, as we have already discussed, like the desert plants, they also prepare their food or perform the process of photosynthesis in their stem. The process of preparation of food by the plants is called photosynthesis, where the photo itself stands for the light, the sunlight. So this photosynthesis process takes place within the plant and they prepare their food by themselves. They do not depend upon any other organism for their food. Hence, they are also called as autotrophs or producers, because plant actually is the organism which directly or indirectly is responsible for the food of every other living organism. Next is animals and human beings. Animals and human beings are called heterotrophs. Why they are called heterotrophs? Heterotrophs means those organisms who depend on other living organisms for their food. For example, herbivores, carnivores and omnivores. These are the division of heterotrophs. Heterotrophs can be of mainly three types: herbivores, carnivores and omnivores. Herbivores are those animals which feed upon plants, which can only eat plant or plant products. They are directly dependent on the plant for their food. Whereas carnivores are those organisms which only consume meat. They will hunt or they will eat the meat killed by the other animals, but they only eat meat. They are not directly but indirectly dependent on the plants. How? Because these herbivores will feed upon the plants and these carnivores will hunt and kill and then eat these herbivores. If there are no plants, no herbivores will be there, and if no herbivores will be there, herbivores like deer, goat, then the carnivores like lion, tiger, they will not have their food. So they are indirectly dependent on the plants. Next is omnivores. Omnivores are those organisms which can eat both the plant products as well as the meat of other organism or as well as flesh. So herbivores only depend upon the plant. They eat only the plants. Carnivores eat the meat of herbivores or other organisms. They depend only on meat. Omnivores can feed upon both meat and plant products. Some of the examples of herbivores are, as I have already cited, deer, goat, cow, etc. Carnivores like lion, tiger, cheetah. Then omnivore like rat, cockroach, dog. These are some of the examples. Next is fungi. Fungi or fungus, you must have heard, but most of us don't know what is their food actually. What is their mode of nutrition? How they obtain energy or how they obtain food. So fungi are mainly called as saprotrophs. What does it mean? Saprotrophs are those organisms which absorb nutrients or food from dead and decaying matter. For example, if some dead body is there, dead body of an organism, of an animal or a plant, they have died and their dead body is placed there. There you will see some fungus will grow. That fungus absorbs the nutrients, its food from that living body. So they are called saprotrophs. This is one of the characteristics of living organisms. That means they need food to stay alive, from which they get energy which is utilized in their body. Next is all living things show growth. First was they need food. Next is they show growth. That means if something is a living organism, it will grow. For example, a baby. A human baby, when it is born, it is very small. But as the time passes, it slowly grows. It becomes a teenager like you, and then ultimately after a few years it becomes an adult. So you can see the growth in its physical structure. Its height will grow, weight will grow, size will increase. Same with the plant. First they start their journey with as a seed, then slowly a sapling will grow, and that sapling will ultimately become a tree. So here also we can see the growth taking place. Next is all living things respire. What is the meaning of respire, or what is the meaning of respiration? Respiration is the process where an organism intake oxygen. The organism take oxygen and uses that oxygen to produce energy with the help of the oxygen and the food which is there in its body. Organism will inhale the oxygen or intake the oxygen. Oxygen will go and it will react with the food which we have eaten, and this reaction will produce energy to be utilized in our body. So respiration in the humans, how humans take oxygen? Through our nose. By the process of breathing, human inhale oxygen through their nose. Earthworm take oxygen through their skin. That means earthworms respire through their skin. Here you see human take oxygen through their nose. But where does this oxygen go? It is ultimately going to our lungs, where it goes into our blood vessel to be utilized. So we can write lungs also here. For humans, nose and lungs. For earthworm, skin. For fishes, gills, and for plants, stomata. Through the stomata, I hope you remember, stomata are the tiny pores present in the leaves of the plant through which gaseous exchange takes place. The carbon dioxide is inhaled, oxygen is exhaled or released out for the process of photosynthesis, while for the process of respiration, oxygen is again taken in and carbon dioxide is let out. So these are some of the parts which help in the respiration for various organisms. Next we will see, next characteristics is all living things respond to stimuli. What does it mean? You see, touching a hot surface, just by accident, if you place your hand on a very hot surface, what will be your reaction? Immediately you will remove your hand. So the hot surface is the stimuli for you, and removing of your hand is your response. Did you understand what is stimuli? Stimuli is anything to which an organism responds. Here, to what you are responding? You are responding to the hot surface. So this hot surface is the stimuli for you. And what is your response? Your response is the removal of your hand. Next example is some flowers bloom only at night or day. There are some flowers which can only bloom during the night or which only blooms during the day, and when the night comes, it slowly closes. For example, you can see some of the flowers, a pumpkin flower you can see, when it is early morning it will bloom, and as the night approaches it slowly closes up again. Here, what is the stimuli? The flower is opening and closing in respect to the presence of sunlight, the intensity of sunlight. When the sunlight is very high or present, the flower will bloom. When the sunlight is not there, when the light is not present, the flower will again close up. Or in some cases, when light is there, flower will not bloom, and when the night time comes, the flower will bloom. So the blooming of the flower and closing up of the flower is the response of the plant. What is the stimuli? The light is the stimuli. There are various examples for this. You can see other examples, like if you are sitting in a dark place for some time. You are sitting in a dark place for some time and you step out of the room and there is a bright light. What will be your response? You will squint your eyes or you will close your eyes, because to adjust, so that you can adjust your eyes to the bright light. The squinting of the eye or closing of your eye is your response to what? It is the response to the presence of the bright light. So bright light will be the stimuli and your squinting of the eyes will be the response to the stimuli. I hope you have understood. Next thing is, all living organisms excrete. Excretion is the process by which an organism releases out or removes the unwanted things, unwanted products present in its body. For example, in animals we can see they excrete or remove the things in the form of urine or excreta. Especially the harmful chemicals present in our body are removed, excreted from our body by the process of urination. Then excreta or feces is another process, like when the undigested food which we have eaten is not wanted in our body, it is now undigested and cannot be utilized in our body, so it is removed by the process in the form of excreta or feces. In the case of plants, by the process of transpiration, they release the excess water. By the process of secretion, they release some chemicals in the form of gum, resin, latex, etc. Then the oxygen and carbon dioxide released by the process of photosynthesis, in the process of photosynthesis and respiration. These are released by the plants through stomata. Next is, all living things reproduce their own kind. So here, the process of reproduction is where an organism reproduces or produces a living organism which is of its own kind. For example, humans give birth to human baby. Dogs give birth to puppies. Cats give birth to kittens. Then hen give birth to or lay egg from which chicks are born. Like that in the case of plants also, plants produce seeds and that seed ultimately again give rise to the same kind or same type of the plant. Some animals are there which directly give birth to their young ones. Their young ones, or also called as offsprings, are directly given birth. For example, in the case of human, dog, cat, rat, lion, tiger, elephant, etc. There are many more examples, and there are some animals which lay eggs and from the egg the new baby is born. So examples for those organisms which lay eggs are birds, snake, turtle, frog, toad, etc. And in the case of plants, plants can reproduce by producing seeds from which new plants will grow, as in the case of coriander, wheat, maize, etc. Some plants are there which can be reproduced by cutting a branch or their stem and again putting it under the soil, so that we will have two plants. From that cutting, new plant will grow, as we can see in the case of rose plant. Another example is tuber, where a tuber is used. For example, in the case of potato, in the plant potato, what you take, the potato itself you take and sow it in the soil, and from that new plants grow. So that is called as tuber. So there are various processes by which the plants can reproduce, and animals also can reproduce through various processes. Next is all living things move. All of the living things are capable of moving. For example, in the case of animals, some of the animals walk, swim, hop, slither, etc. Like human beings, a dog, we can walk. Fishes, whale, dolphin, they can swim. Frog, rabbit, they hop. Snakes, they slither. So these are some of the movements which can be seen in the animals. Whereas in the plants also movements can be seen. For example, opening and closing of the flower. The opening of the or blooming of the flower and again closing is nothing but movements which can be seen in the plants. Then bending of the plant towards the light. You see, if you have planted a plant in a pot, and if by chance that pot falls down and you do not pick it up for few days, you will see that the stem is slowly bending towards the sunlight, towards the sky. It is slowly bending. So this bending is also a movement, very slow movement, but visibly a movement in the plants. Another example is whenever you will see the touch me not plant, if you will touch its leaves, you will see that the leaves will close up. So that is another example of movement in the plants. Next is all living things have a definite lifespan. That means all living things ultimately they die. They will have a definite lifespan up to which they live. For example, in the case of human beings, our average lifespan is 70 to 80 years. In the case of elephants also it is 70 to 80 years. In the case of tortoise, it is about 120 to 150 years of age. You mind it, these are average lifespan up to which most of them stay alive. But some may live for even more. For example, some of the human beings are also known to be alive up to the age of 110, 120. In the case of tortoise, some may live for about 300, 350 years. Then in the case of butterfly, it is about 1 to 2 weeks only. Whereas in the case of plants, plants can be annual plants. That means they grow up from the seed, gives a flower, fruit and die in one growth season only. Their lifespan is only up to one season. They are called as annual plants. Example, maize, pea, watermelon, etc. Next is biennial plants. Biennial plants are those plants which stay alive for about 2 seasons. They will grow in one season and give flower and fruit in the next season. For 2 seasons, they stay alive. Their lifespan is 2 seasons. For example, beetroot, sugar beets and carrots, etc. Next is perennial plants. These perennial plants have their lifespan more than 2 seasons. They may survive for several years or many years also. For example, hibiscus, lavender, etc. You know children, there are some banyan tree which are known to live for about 200 to 300 years of age. And also there are some people plants which are known to be lived for about more than 2000 years. So lifespan is the average period up to which a living organism survive or stay alive. So these are some of the characteristics of living organism. In this chapter we have discussed various topics like adaptation to various situations, various habitats, and what are the adaptations of plants and animals in those habitats. Then we have discussed what are the characteristics are there which make a thing a living thing. How we can consider something as living and what are the characteristics should be present there. You remember that there are some non-living things also which can show one or two of the characteristics. For example, you take cloud. Can you see the cloud also grows in size and the cloud also move from one place to another? A robot can also move from one place to another. It can respond to the stimuli. When if we press a remote button, then it will respond to it. Then there are cars which can move from one place to another. These are some of the non-living things which can show some of the characteristics we have discussed here. But it doesn't show all of the characteristics. A living organism will have all of these characteristics which we have discussed. So if something will have one or any two of the characteristics out of this which we have discussed, then they are not necessarily to be termed as living organisms. I hope that you have understood this chapter thoroughly. For better understanding, you can go through your textbook. For now, thank you.